Welcome off to the world.
Welcome everybody back to episode number 20 of the Swiss Army Man podcast. I'm Tone.
Off the rails.
Oh shit, that's wrong. Okay, let's go back again.
Well, Claire handled the intro. Don't worry about it.
That's true. So what I was gonna say, so this is how we got off the rails, and we got off the rails real fast this time. Was that if you are listening to this and you haven't ever listened to us, we are off the rails with Tone and Jems. I'm Tone. That's Jems. Our last episode was actually our first kind of episode of this, which we did on the Swiss Army Man when Jems came on my podcast and talked to me, and that's kind of how we got to this iteration of us doing this. So Jems, how's it going, man?
Good. I working normal human hours now, so getting home at 3:30 every day or so is wonderful.
Must be nice. Yeah, we had like this crazy ass snowstorm, so like my work hours have been real fucked up all this past week.
We had a little bit of snow the other night, but it was just like a dusting. But other than that, it's been 40s and 50s. I think hopefully we're clear of all that bullshit.
Hell yeah, man. No, we got 20 inches of snow, and it came all overnight, like one night. It was like nuts. And then it's supposed to snow today, but the sun's out, as you can tell by hitting me in the face.
Yeah.
Behind me. But yeah, so hopefully the snow is kind of done, but I think we're supposed to get some Saturday too. So
it's wild when you go to bed and there's like 2 or 3 inches of snow, and then you wake up and it snowed like an inch or two every hour while you were sleeping, and there's 2 feet of snow out.
Yeah, it was wild because so I couldn't go to work Sunday, I guess it was, because the roads were just bad. We live out kind of outside of the regular town, so we like they don't plow our stuff. They don't obviously plow the neighborhood anyway, but like our roads are decently main roads for out here, but they're not like main roads. So they kind of got it. They took them forever to get around to it, but the visibility was garbage. They actually shut down the road that I normally take into work. So, and it's like a main road. So I was like, I'm not taking that way. And then the other way was going to be all ice. Basically every report I saw was like all ice and like low visibility. And then I actually talked to like one of my buddies that went into work, and he came back out here to deliver some stuff, and he said the work truck was literally getting blown across the 2-lane road. So I was like, damn. Well, I was like, no, I'm glad I didn't go in.
Is it mountainous where you're at?
Not where I'm at. No, I mean it is, but like you can see the mountains from my backyard. But like we kind of live in like a flatter area. It's hard to say we live in a flatter area because it does change so often. I think we're at like 6,750 elevation. So 6,750 foot elevation.
I think we looked this up one of our podcasts at what
I think we did.
At,
yeah.
It's not very high.
Yeah, like 33 feet. But yeah, no, yeah. So I mean it's weird because like it's flat, but it's all like high flat. So it's like, but also we have Pikes Peak pretty damn close. So
yeah,
that's like 14. So yeah, you're not like
814 feet.
Oh, okay. So you're not you're just a mile below me.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy to think about? Like me looking out my window right now, but I mean, this door is facing me, but like a mile up in the air is like how far away you are.
Yeah.
Well, plus 1,500 miles, but
yeah, but it's wild though when you think about it. You're like, I mean, we're technically both on flat ground, but I'm just on flat ground way higher.
Right.
It's like, it's very strange. Like if I fell from my elevation to your elevation, I'd die.
Right. I mean, I would die if I fell from my elevation
to the ground, to sea level.
Yeah. We watched this video so it's like basically safety work.
Yeah.
Safety week for me at work. And we were talking about, I think, tying off, and the instructor showed us a video of the dudes that are climbing those like cell towers to change the light bulb.
Oh shit, dude, that's just scary as fuck.
Yeah, it was 1,750 foot tower or some shit like that.
Yeah,
and they can take an elevator up 1,600 feet. So then they have this last 160 feet to climb, and like, I'm like, it's probably not. Like, it's probably scary, but I'm sure you're tied off. It's probably not that, that inherently dangerous. No, they free climb that. They are not tied off. The only time they tie off is when they're taking a break. I was like, how does ocean not like destroy them over that. And OSHA allows it, I guess.
What?
Yeah, there's YouTube videos. Watch it. It'll give you like, I'm not that terribly scared of heights, but that was just anxiety watching.
No way. I would not be doing that not tied off. That's fucking crazy.
Absolutely not. He'll like hook his hook on. He's like, time for a break. And he leans back. And then.
First off, wouldn't be doing that either.
No. And part of the stuff they're climbing is not a ladder. It's just like the structure. Not like not climbing like a pole, but it's like the diagonal cross and stuff. It's like they don't pay you enough money for however much you're making for that. You do not get paid enough money.
I forgot what I watched a video and the dude got paid like $2,400 per light bulb or some bullshit.
I don't think that's worth it unless I'm gonna like do 100 in a month.
I mean, if you did one a week, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad living.
I mean, $2,400, one light bulb a week for an entire year is like $110,000 or something like that.
Yeah, but how long does it take you to change a light bulb, you think?
The longest part is shitting your pants on the way up there.
Right.
It can't be that long to change it once, but I'm sure there's like you gotta like undo a bunch of screws and shit. I'm sure it's not just like you go up there and unscrew a light bulb and put one in.
And those things got to be like big, you would think.
Right, and they got 30 pounds of tools tied off to them, so they're just dragging that up. So then like they'll get to a certain point, and then they gotta like lean over and pull it up a little bit.
Jesus, yeah, fuck that. Yeah, nope, I'm out on that job. That is not the job that I want.
No.
I look like I would do that job right now, dude. I couldn't find a hat. I'm gonna mention this because I hate my hair. I need a haircut. I'm getting a haircut Friday.
I need one
Holy
too.
shit, this thing is nuts though.
Yeah, yours is longer than mine. I thought mine was getting pretty long.
I haven't really I cut it once. My wife made my kids cut it when they gave me the mohawk the first time, like lengthwise. But I was like, leave some length. I don't want to fucking have a short mohawk.
Right.
But yeah, they cut it. Cut it down, but I couldn't find a hat, and I was like, fuck it. I was like, it doesn't look terrible, but it's just annoying as fuck, basically. But I'm gonna get like a sweet fade. I think Trash Man Ronnie posted it recently. He said nothing feels better than getting a new haircut or something like that, on Twitter.
I have no idea what I'm gonna do when I cut my hair. I might fade up the sides and let it go again and kind of mulletize it, or I might just get a normal haircut. I have not decided.
We have this cool dude in town. So they have like these it's like a building. You go to a building and it's like each little like room is like a person's business basically. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like interesting. They rent the space, but they own that space basically. And so he has got like the one booth. It's like he's got like a washing station. It's a decent sized booth. I mean, it's probably like the size of my office or whatever, but yeah, he's just doing haircuts in there, and he's got like a TV on the wall and stuff. Super nice dude. He's like really awesome at what he does, and he does my son's hair, and he puts up with my son's shit because my son is like hates getting his hair cut. Yeah, like freaks out. He did it okay last time. I'm taking him with me Friday because he's got like a fucking mullet so bad. My wife was trying to put his mask. We went out to dinner for the first time and like ever last night. And my wife was trying to put his mask on, and he was like, "You're pulling my hair."
Where'd you guys eat dinner?
So we ate at this place called Purple Toad. It's pretty close to our house.
It sounds cool.
It's a local place. They do like steak, and you can get sandwiches, you can get burgers. So it's kind of like, I guess, it's like a local like Chili's sort of. I guess, but not really that vibe. But it's like a bar, and they have like their own, like in the corner they have their own, like they brew their own beer there too. So it's like it's an interesting place, but it's pretty good. Surprisingly, their pizza is like really, really good. I don't know why, but I didn't get it last night. My son got the pizza, but I got a French dip sub, and it was pretty good. My dog is so loud. My wife moved my dog into the office, and since she's a puppy, when I record, I usually put her in her kennel, and and since it's outside is still wet now, it's all muddy, so she kind of came in a little muddy. So like I was like, get in your kennel, but now she's like moving around.
I hate that when the snow melts or it rains and the dogs have to go outside. And come in and like I don't know what to do.
Well, and between the two dogs, they've dug holes like along my. Not that I'm not a big landscape. I'm not going to be like hurt that my landscape's fucked up, but like I just don't care. But
right,
But like we got landscape done, and they dug one corner, and so like now like when it was melting, there's legit a little like puddle back there. So like they were just fucking around with it. But also, by the way, I wanted to bring this up. I was cleaning today and found a koozie. This shout out to Brian in Champaign. He likes koozies, but my buddy Carter Holsey's.
What's the deal with the cow?
Koozie. So I don't really know, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's from his last I think his last record, maybe, or the record before. I can't remember. But it's got a bunch of his like song names around it.
That's kind of neat.
And so the cool thing about that is I got the tracking number for he's sending these. He has a new record coming out on my birthday, May 11th. He's got a new record coming out that you can buy. It's called Start Staying, and he is sending out to the people that are like integral to like, you know, him being an artist and like stuff like that. He's sending these boxes around, and then that person sends it to the next person, and so you can get an early listen to the record.
Oh, well, that's kind of neat. We have some guests just walked in.
Yes,
Claire's back.
Claire's back.
Megan, you can come over here too.
What's
and
up?
And this is my sister-in-law. She's 9.
Yeah.
You can say
nice. Hi. What's up? How's it going? What's on your shirt? Is that the Muppets?
Frozen.
Frozen. Oh, it looks like the Muppets because I have the sun in my eye. But that's
Claire just has her black tutu thing on.
That's awesome.
She's like, I just have a black dress.
Nice. Are you a big Frozen fan?
It was for one of our recitals that I did.
Oh, nice. I actually love them. I love Frozen. It's great.
Did we just watch that the other night, Claire?
Yeah.
Which one's better, Frozen or Frozen 2?
Frozen 2.
I think so too. I'm with you. Frozen 2 was I liked it better.
I haven't seen Frozen 2. I just paid attention to Frozen 1 for the first time the other night.
That's funny. Well, I mean, you know, Frozen.
You leaving?
Yeah.
All right, love you. Bye, Megan.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
So if you had to guess,
yeah,
what ethnicity do you think I have the most of in me?
Oh, Northern European.
It breaks it down a little more, like a little more than that.
What am I looking for? Like, give me an example. Countries?
Breaks it down into countries.
Give me some.
Yeah. I'll tell you 3 of mine. The highest percentages I got were 24%, 21%, and 19%.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna guess you have some Scottish.
10%.
Okay, so that's not terrible.
Just I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
On all of this, I am white.
Yeah,
there's no African. There's no Asian. There's no Latin. It's all white.
Just white. So do you have a Scandinavian?
It was Norway. Counted Scandinavian. That's the most at 24%.
Nice.
So I'm apparently a Viking.
Yes. I'm so what I've been told is that so if you didn't just pick that up, Jems got his results back from his ancestry, and I'm very interested in it because I want to also do my ancestry. I've been told my entire life that I'm Scottish, mostly. That's where Gordon comes from, my last name. But who really knows, right?
Right.
So,
I assumed my big thing would be Irish, but I'm only 9% Irish.
Nice. I mean, so you're more Scottish than you are Irish.
Yep. It goes. I just sent you. I can share the results. I just texted them to you. But I'm 24% Norway.
Yeah.
21% Sweden. I guess I could put the right suffixes on these, but this is just what it says. Sweden is Swedish. 19% England and Northwestern Europe.
Okay.
13% France.
Nice.
10% Scotland, 9% Ireland, and then 2% Baltics and 2% Germanic Europe.
I love that you have additional communities in the southeastern Quebec French settlers.
That's where it's basically saying they think the majority of my stuff is coming from. So I assume the Norway would be the like Vikings going there to Canada.
Oh, dude, you have Iceland on here.
Where does it say that?
It's circled.
Oh yeah, if you open up that map, it'll show you everywhere that's circled.
It's that they count it as Norway, but it's its own country. So, I'm very confused.
But so I said that something to my mom. I was like, apparently we are French Canadian, and she goes, "Well, my grandpa, my great grandpa, her grandpa, would speak French." I was like, "This is the first I've ever heard of this."
Yeah.
So I guess at some point in the recent history, they immigrated from southeastern Quebec.
Nice. Heck yeah, man. I mean, dude, I think I wonder if you're more Swedish, I think, than anything if they changed that Iceland one, because it's the same color as Norway. But it's not
on the map.
It's right here. It's this big one that's in the middle of the ocean.
Well, oh, there it is. it was only localizing things.
That's Iceland.
Norway. Yeah, you're right.
That's
do they own?
No.
No?
Mm-mm. I lived in Iceland as a kid. Fun fact.
Well, that's pretty neat. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think you might be more Swedish than you are Norwish, whatever
I'm cool with whatever. And like the cool thing about the ancestry is it'll show you like matches. So like it says first cousin, but it's actually like aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
So I have two. I don't know which one's which because they both just have their initials. But it's my newly found out last 10 years that I had an aunt and uncle.
Oh, sweet.
That are like my dad's half siblings. And then my great uncle is on here. So like those say first cousin, but they're actually,
That's interesting. I wonder if you you could find, because I know like my parents do like the ancestry stuff. And like, I know like, you could find matches on there with the ancestry DNA thing or whatever, but
it goes deep. It goes down to like fourth cousin.
Damn.
Names I don't know.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, I always wonder because, we've done the actual like tracing back.
Yeah.
And, like, I know I go back to like John Adams, like.
Really?
Yeah. So like, my mom is done and like my parents are like really vigilant about it. Like, you have to have like two sources of like to prove it. Like, because like we're stuck on this one particular. I think it's. So my dad, my grandfather, his dad. So his dad's dad, like, is where we're stuck on my dad's side. And like I found like maybe like a year ago, I kind of got like a hair up my ass. And I was like, I'm gonna go find this fucking thing because I'm pretty good at searching on the internet. And I found actually some interesting things about this guy. And this guy happens to be on his like birth certificate. He's not listed as white. He's listed as light skinned, which I guess back then, or not birth certificate. His he fought in the army, so he's listed as light skinned. So I guess if you were listed that way, you were actually considered to be black in the time. So I was like, it's weird. But I mean, it makes sense for like. So that's why, like, I would want to get into like some of my ancestry because I'm like, I definitely think there's some extra stuff in there that like we probably aren't accounted for. But when I was looking for him, I found him, and his dad died, and then he basically lived with his mom and his three sisters. So I found it in the census, him with his three sisters and his mom with like another dude who had a different last name. And then like, dude, I went down this whole rabbit hole, and then I was trying to like do it like get like sources. And so like I found one of the sisters actually all of them lived in Indiana, I think, actually, that came across the border in Michigan. And then one of them actually, her husband died. They found him in the middle of a field hanging from a tree.
Wow.
Like in Indiana and stuff. It was like weird. There was like a bunch of weird shit with it, but.
So if they just came across the border from Michigan into Indiana, it could have possibly been not too far from me.
Yeah, so this is like a year ago, like maybe a little bit more than a year ago, but like now I'm like, man, I should probably I mean, is that where you guys are? Is that where your family's all located? Is like right in that little area?
No. My mom's side is all like right here. Oh, okay. My dad's side is like Wisconsin. Well, based out of Wisconsin, but like now they've spread out Georgia.
I wonder if we're related anyway, Jems.
Wouldn't that be fucked up? Like wild.
I believe. I think it could happen. I mean,
Well, what was that? What was the last name of the?
fuck, I don't even remember. I have to go back and look. But
Oh.
we were Gordons, so like the girls were Gordons, but then obviously they switched when they got married and stuff. So I have to go back and look. Just get my dad's login and log into it. But
I thought funny if it's like, yeah, they settled in LaPorte, Indiana, and found the dude hanging from a tree in a cornfield. I'm like, oh yeah, I see that tree.
You're like, that tree's on my land. Dude, I have to go check it. It's definitely interesting though, because like they were from the western side of Michigan so like I mean could have
New Buffalo.
It could have very, very, very like possibly been like that straight down. I mean, it wasn't like Indianapolis or anything like that. I think it was all like counties back then anyway, so it might not even be a city, but like I'm sure.
I know my counties from Indiana history. We went over my Indiana history.
We did one
time.
No, it's
6.5 miles from Michigan, so
yeah. Well, shit, that's awesome. Shit. I mean, we probably the crazy thing is so my dad's side. So my grandfather, the one that we do know that is his dad is the one that we lose track on. He's actually buried in Colorado. Like,
oh wow.
Because like it's weird now. When I moved here, I was like, and I keep meaning to go up there. It's definitely out of the way from where I live, but one of these days I'm gonna get up there and go see their gravestone and stuff. But it's kind of weird to think that, like, I'm like, that was my great grandfather, and he's buried like 3 hours north of me.
Wow. I got in a rabbit hole the other night. I don't remember how I came across it, but I came across this pitcher he's a Hall of Fame pitcher. His name's Burley Grimes.
Okay.
From like the 1920s or 30s.
Well, that sounds like a 1930s name.
Right. Well, and I knew of him beforehand because my dad had told me he used to fish with him because he lived around the area that my dad grew up in.
Oh, yeah.
And being a stupid kid, I asked some questions, but not enough about something like that. And somehow his name popped up on like Facebook or Twitter the other day. He was like one of the last people grandfathered in to throw a spitball. And it's like, he was like, oh yeah, he did some stuff. Like he's good friends with like Tom Seaver. And I think it was Tom Seaver.
Damn.
Fuck, what was it now? Because he died in 1985 at like 70 something. But I got down a rabbit hole about him. Like struck out Babe Ruth and shit like that. So
Jesus.
Like,
really?
My dad had heard some cool stories from him. Or he just thought of him as another guy, and didn't.
That's wild. That's kind of cool as shit, though.
Yeah.
That reminded me. I thought you were about to just be like, "Oh yeah, my dad," and I was like, thought you were going to pull it out. My dad is somehow related to, and my dad has a lot of wild like connections and stuff. But have you ever heard of Steve Rogers? Not Captain America, but
I wouldn't have even known that.
Okay, that's Steve, because it's Captain America's name, the actual name in the comic book. So Steve Rogers was a pitcher in Major League Baseball. He played for the Expos for 12 years.
Okay.
He actually he was a 5-time All-Star, and he actually led the league in ERA in 1982. And he's related to us somehow, but yeah. But he like owns like a rice farm in like Arkansas. But my dad's uncle Eddie, he called him his Uncle Eddie. So I don't know if it's like was like his uncle, but they're related somehow. But it was like weird. Like, and I was like, my dad was like, yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Like, he's like, we heard of him like as this little kid. My dad was like 22 when he like, I think like retired or some shit like that. But let's see.
Is it Uncle Eddie Matthews?
Yeah, Uncle Eddie Matthews. No, they actually, ironically enough, speaking of, and this is gonna be a plug for another show, but ironically enough, my Uncle Eddie or my dad's Uncle Eddie had like 8 Purple Hearts.
Jesus.
And his land is like I guess his house is super haunted. I went there once as a kid, and I don't remember anything, but my dad was like, yeah, his like house is super haunted, which takes me back to, I didn't mention this in the podcast, but we just recorded with Flags. I just recorded with Flags, Who Shows It Anyway, which should be out also probably tonight. But so it's probably already out. But when you're hearing this, but when we talked about the paranormal, so
That's exciting.
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one.
We have a pretty locally famous cemetery that's supposed to be pretty haunted.
Yeah. I'm into that kind of stuff, but I grew up in like I've probably spent time in your town for sure. Like my parents took us to like graveyards and shit.
Yeah, this is Posey Chapel. It's right on almost on the Michigan-Indiana border, and it's like the highest point in the area.
Nice.
Got a cemetery up there, and like at clear days you can see Chicago, I guess.
Yeah,
but like super haunted.
There's like some place in like I want to say Kansas City or somewhere in Missouri, and it's like there's like the cemetery is like considered the gateway to hell.
I just listened to something or watched something about that. What the hell was that? Did I watch a TV? It's like, I think it's Kansas.
I want to say it's in Kansas somewhere.
Was it?
Is it Kansas City, Kansas?
No,
Maybe.
I don't think it's. I thought it was like in the middle of BFE.
It could be.
What the hell? Where? How did I read about it or did I? Man, it's funny you bring that up because
I don't know. I remember it from a long time ago, so mine was nothing recent that triggered it.
Gateway to Hell, Kansas.
That's the name of the town.
It's Stull. Stull.
Yes. Yeah, there's like there's like the gateway to hell there or some shit. Supposedly.
I swear it was a podcast that I listened to when they talked about it, but
it might have been. Do you listen to Time Suck or anything like that?
No, and it might have even been flipping through the channels and watching something on TV.
It's possible. I consume so many podcasts anymore that like sometimes it's hard to keep them where I got the info from.
The problem is that sometimes I'll get in a YouTube rabbit hole, like where I'll just start recommended videos and stuff. Facebook's real bad about that. Something will play like right after I watch a video and be like, oh, that's interesting.
Right. By the way, I'm not ignoring you. I'm texting my dad to ask how we're related to Steve Rogers, just so I can give you guys that heads up later on. But also, while we're talking about podcasts and being into podcasts and listening to podcasts and getting information from podcasts, Jems, what are we doing starting tomorrow?
We are starting our March Madness. I don't know if there's copyright things with that or anything.
There's a March Podness
tournament of our 64 favorite podcasts across the Iron Ostrich Network. So there were 7 of us. We all chose 8-ish podcasts that we all enjoyed. And the other night we seeded and set up a bracket of all of them. Plus we added 4 of our Iron Ostrich Network podcasts. And we are going to post Twitter polls over the next couple weeks and finding out what is the favorite podcast.
Yeah. So fans are going to get to vote. So if you follow it's at Iron Ostrich HQ. That is the Twitter handle for the Iron Ostrich Network, which we are on. The Anomalies are on. Smoking Pop Moms are on. Bacon Focus. Who Shows It Anyway? We got other ones coming out as well. So you should be giving it a follow anyway, so you can stay up to date with all that stuff. If you go over there, we're going to post, I think the first day is 8 matchups.
Yeah. I think we're going to do the first round over 4 days. The college basketball tournament does 2 days, but we're going to do it in 4 because
we broke it up into
off days.
4 quadrants, obviously. So we have obviously you have 32 on each side of the bracket. So we're going to do the first 16, then the second 16, then we're going to move to the other side of the bracket and do the same. So do we want to start with the first part of this and kind of review some of these matchups?
Yeah, we can quickly-ish. I know we tend to elongate things by jabbering, but we'll go over. We can start with I guess, did we name these regions or are we just calling it the Joe Rogan region?
We'll just go with what the number 1 seed is for now.
Okay.
So we'll start with the Joe Rogan bracket, which is Joe Rogan's first seed against the number 16 seed Bacon Focus, which is on the Iron Ostrich Network. It is hosted by Rich Reagans, and it is absolutely hilarious. So if you haven't heard it, go listen to it.
It is absolutely hilarious, and I love Richie, and I think the podcast is great. But I mean, Joe Rogan's
podcast guy
posts 3-hour-long podcasts that people still listen to.
Yeah, it's wild.
People see long. I'll see a long podcast, but like shit. But like a Rogan podcast, you're just sitting there and into it.
They don't feel like 3 hours. So I would say
he just got paid what 110 or 120 million dollars or something from Spotify.
Yeah, to be exclusive there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which I think yeah. I mean, I think Joe Rogan will probably win, but
I would think so.
That is no indictment on Rich's podcast because
right.
All these podcasts are great. That's why they're on the fucking tournament.
Right. And like the 16 seeds are all network podcasts for
so then we'll go to the 8-9 matchup, which is KFC Radio from Barstool and against Kill Tony, which is Tony Hinchcliffe's and Death Squad's podcast network, I think. So which I enjoy KFC Radio a little bit more, to be honest with you. But if you're a comedy fan, Kill Tony is a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the issue, it depends. A lot of these polls are going to be interesting because you'll have some I'm just going to skip down. Mm-hmm. We have WTF with Mark Maron versus Barstool Confessions. So WTF is a huge podcast. He's like 1,500 episodes deep. He's had Obama while he was sitting president. Yeah. It's a phenomenal podcast, but he doesn't have Barstool fandom behind him where Barstool Confessions could honestly win that just if the right person retweets something. Yeah. It could just blow up and we could have something like that, a 15 seed win the whole thing just because of
definitely
network there. So
that's going to be an interesting one. Yeah. So WTF is the 2 seed in this bracket. Barstool Confessions is the 15th seed. Which is, so it's going to be an interesting, definitely interesting matchups for sure. The next one that I was going to go to is also an interesting matchup. You have the number 5 seed, the Dollop, against number 12 seed, Zero Blog 30. Same thing. You got Barstool behind it. It's a military podcast against a comedy improv podcast. I'm not a big Dollop fan. I've listened to a few of them, so that was somebody else's suggestion. But
I'm not familiar with it.
I know it's big. I know it's got a good following.
Right.
So honestly, that could go any which way. And then we have the next one, which is 4 versus 13. You got this past weekend with Theo Vaughn against Talking Sopranos, which is a show talking about the Sopranos. So who knows who's going to vote on those? You know what I mean? Then going down, you have the 6 seed Whiskey Ginger podcast with Andrew Santino against our boy, number 11 seed, the 31 podcast with Brant Tobler. If you haven't checked that out, you should also check that out.
The good thing about Brant's 31 podcast is you get 3 other podcasts all in one.
Yeah, definitely. And so he does interviews with people from time to time, and he also has one with his girlfriend called Dead to Us, and then he does this Craigslist chaos where he just calls and makes prank calls, sort of. So it's 3 podcasts in one. It's pretty interesting. And then you got Bill Burt versus Twisted History, which is also Barstool. But Bill Burt has Bill Burr and Burt Kreischer.
Right. The first of 3 Burt podcasts that made this list.
That is correct, yeah. By 3 different people, too, I think.
I think you were Burtcast. That was 2 Bears, 1 Cave. And Marco, I think, was Bill Burt.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, we are all big Burt Kreischer podcast network. So speaking of that, you have the Burtcast, number 7 seed against number 10 seed, the Jason Ellis show, which 3 people tried to put on the list and then took off and then put back on the list.
Yeah, it was. And Jason just started it. Obviously, he had a Sirius XM show for 100 years, but Sirius got stupid. They have made some bad decisions this past year. Yeah, and he started a podcast and it's blowing up because Jason Ellis is hilarious. Yeah, for sure. So that's it. So that'll be a good one. So that's the second of Bert's one. And then we'll get into the first one because we already went over the WTF one. So moving to the second bracket or second quadrant, you have number 1 seed, 2 Bears, 1 Cave against the number 16 seed, the Anomalies podcast. Anomalies podcast also on this podcast network. So definitely check them out because they're awesome. But sorry, guys, you're going to get beat. Right. 2 Bears, 1 Cave is fantastic. I don't know. There's not a ton of podcasts that make me laugh like Bert and Tom, especially with Tom kind of being dry and Bert just being Bert. It's
but it's great when Bert can kind of take Tom down the rabbit hole and then his brain gets goofy too. Dude, it's wild. But ironically enough, it's actually one of the few highly, because it's in the top 200. It's pretty high in the top 200. It's one of the few underrated big podcasts. I still don't feel like it gets the due it deserves.
I like to watch that one. That's one I
do
prefer to YouTube rather than listen to it on like my phone or.
For sure. I mean, it's good, really good. And then we'll go to Good for You, which is Whitney Cummings' podcast against the Kevin Clancy Show, number 9 podcast. Well, KFC is in another 8-9 battle here.
I guess
Again,
KFC is involved with at least 3 of these podcasts as well.
Yeah, I believe so too. Yeah. Yeah. So you have Good for You. Do you ever listen to Good for You?
I watched like half of one day at work, the one with Kesha.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was where she was talking about the teeth.
Yeah.
It's wild. Fans. I mean, it's an interesting podcast just because she has a vast amount of people. She'll have comedians on there. She'll have like singers. She'll have like actors. She's all over the place with that. So it's like really good. And then the Kevin Clancy Show, I just actually was listening to the one with Barstool Kate on it, and it was really good. You get the backstory on some of these people like in the world. So.
Yeah, I've seen some of them. I thought he does backgrounds on. He's got a video series where he does backgrounds on people too, but I don't know. I haven't listened to the Kevin Clancy Show, but I'm assuming he might release it. I assume it's good. I watch 1 Minute Man like every day when it gets released, or sometime. Yeah,
he's good. He's one of the people that, and I hate to say this because I am a Barstool fan, but like there are certain people at Barstool I'm like, if they weren't part of Barstool, I would just forget about them. I think Kevin Clancy, if he was like, I am no longer with Barstool, I'd still probably follow his stuff. So. And then we go to episode
5 and 12.
5 and 12, which is Impulsive versus Wild Ride with Steve-O. So you got Jake Paul, and Steve-O, which is
it Jake or Logan?
Logan Paul, my bad, not Jake
Logan?
Paul.
Okay.
By the way, also, and I hate to say this, but like I've actually listened to a couple of his interviews. The one with Trevor Wallace and the one with Andrew Schultz, and a couple other ones too. And he's actually a pretty good show.
Yeah, I've been wanting to check it out. I always forget, or I'll get behind on podcasts. Yeah. Now that I'm not sitting in a crane for 12 hours a day, it's very difficult to stay caught up on podcasts.
Yeah, man. Well, get your game up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to start walking around the house with the earbud in.
And then Wild Ride with Steve-O. Have you watched that one or listened to that?
I have not.
I've listened to a few of them. They're pretty good. He had like Ryan Sheckler on, the skateboarder. He had Bert Kreischer on. He's had a couple really good interviews that like are really interesting. So like
that's a name I haven't thought about in like 12 years.
Ryan Sheckler. Yeah. So it's that'll be an interesting one. Then going to the 4 and 13 seed, you have Bad Friends with Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino. So his second time on this, as well against 13 Victory, the podcast, which is about Entourage.
And I follow them. I haven't actually listened to an episode, but I do follow them, and I know they've had like Jeremy Piven and some of the other guys on there. So I'm assuming it's pretty good, and it's ranked pretty high, like on the charts too, I believe.
Definitely, yeah. It's a pretty good podcast. And then we'll move to the 6 and 11 seed, which is probably one of our personal favorites. You have the Pod from Pat McAfee Inc. versus Guns Blazing, which is Todd and Sean's podcast, which is interesting because the Pod is basically a continuation of Heartland Radio, which Todd and Sean were on the original version of. So
right, and Todd was the host of it.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll be a fun matchup. That'll be a fun one. Yeah, just for the
totally random that got paired up together. It's just luck.
I mean, it kind of was. I mean, in actuality, like it was. Yeah, I mean,
the way we did it, it just kind of, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So, and then we'll go to 3 and 14. You have Armchair Expert, which is hosted by Dax Shepard, which was actually a late ad to the podcast.
That was like a hindsight thing. Like we fucked up.
Yeah, we were like all like, oh, we shorted it one podcast, and then we were like, we need a podcast. And then like we all kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of a podcast we all kind of get down on. So. Versus Podfathers, number 14 seed, which I haven't personally listened to much, but every time I have, it's a good time. So I enjoy that. But also a Barstool. Right. Then 7 versus 10 is Time Suck versus the Pat Down with Miss Pat. Miss Pat's hilarious. So is Dan Cummings. So I love Time Suck. It's like one of my favorites. I think I'm actually the one who put it on this list, but Time Suck's great if you want to laugh and also learn shit.
That's my favorite. Laughing and learning shit.
Yeah. So that's a good one. I think this one's you put on the list number 2, Hey Babe.
Yeah, that's probably currently my favorite podcast. I've been like binge listening to it.
Yeah. So I know that was one of your favorites. We just had by the way, this is how dedicated we are to podcast. Jems is active volunteer firefighter and is ready to go at any time.
I'm hoping people go to this. Yeah, Hey Babe, it's Chris DiStefano and Sal Vulcano, and it is hilarious. It's just ridiculous.
I've seen clips online. I haven't listened to a full episode yet. I'll probably just do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's episode 5. They talk about dead pets, and it's pretty good. Sal's got like a dead goldfish he's had in his freezer for like 8 years, and I forget which episode it is, but they like unwrap it.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that's weird. That's some serial killer shit. But
he felt bad burying. He didn't want to just flush it.
That's wild. And then it's going up against number 15, Friday Night Pints, which is I've never listened to. I guess it's like an afterthought podcast, sort of the.
Yeah, they do a stream of Friday Night Pints, which is a really cool idea. They started it during the pandemic on Zoom, and then now they're at the Barstool Bar, and there's like 6 of them just bullshitting. Nice.
I'll have to like check that out more. The good thing about this is like I definitely have like more podcasts to go look at.
Right. That's what the cool thing about this will be for sure is like exposure to these new podcasts that I didn't know existed or.
Yeah. Well, because all the podcasts on here are from people that like are in like tight circle, like suggestions basically.
Right. So
like I'm like I'll definitely go check them out. And then I guess we'll go up to the sports quadrant.
Yeah, we might have to. So far, if this gets to the second page, I probably have to go. But yeah. So yeah, the sports cup.
I'll finish it out if so.
Yeah, you're the podcast professional, so
I'm not professional or anything.
But this was like the number 1 seed in the sports bracket is probably the biggest sports podcast. Well, that's why it's number 1 seed.
Yeah,
and it's another Barstool podcast. Pardon my take with PFT and Big Cat. Yeah. They're going against my personal favorite. Like I know I've said, Hey Babe might be my favorite right now, but Off the Rails is probably my favorite to be a part of.
Which I mean, we're talking about it right now. This is like really meta right here. Like, we're talking about us as a 16 seed. We're gonna get blown out by pardon my take, or we should at least. But damn damn well that if we beat PMT, I'm putting it in the Twitter bio.
Oh yeah. if we get a certain amount of percentage points, I think it should go in the Twitter bio.
That's funny.
So then the business side versus Courage and Nade Shot.
Yeah, so the business side I put on here, it's with Ian from SeatGeek, and it's actually it's a really good podcast, fairly new as well, but does really well. So, it's definitely an interesting. Courage and Nade Shot was Trash Man's. It's a video game one. I've never listened to it, but he says it's pretty epic. So, if you're into video games, it's probably the place to go. And then we have Talk is Jericho.
Yeah,
5.
Talk is Jericho versus You're Welcome.
Yeah. So, wrestling podcasts, which I don't listen to a ton of wrestling podcasts.
I listen if they have a guest, like most of the time, if Stone Cold shows up on a show, I will make sure I listen to it. But I have not listened to Talk is Jericho. I assume it's great because Chris Jericho is hilarious.
Chris Jericho is awesome. Yeah.
But I mean, there's another one popping up that I do listen to semi-frequently.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then You're Welcome. I have no familiarity with You're Welcome.
I'm not sure who is that, a TA one?
Maybe.
Or a Tanner one.
Might have been a Tanner one.
Probably a Tanner one.
So that's definitely what I'm gonna check out though. I mean, I looked at it when we were putting them together. But yeah, I definitely need to get that one in just to see kind of what it is. And but I was thinking like the Dwayne the Rock Johnson song, but you know.
Next, we have 4 and 13, which is Redline Radio, which is Barstool Chicago. So that's White Sox Dave and Eddie and Barstool Chief
and against they're going against your recommendation, which was from the 108, which is a White Sox podcast.
It's basically the drunk uncles of the White Sox fan base. So it's 3 season ticket holders from the White Sox that just started. They have a good time. Their season ticket section is behind the foul pole.
Oh, nice.
And they chose it because it was the cheapest one.
Oh, yeah,
I think one guy did a challenge to see if he could go to like 50 games for under $500 or something for the entire year. And they just have this huge following. People will be like hashtag 108ing when they're drinking and stuff. And like right now they have a 108 person Twitter tournament of like favorite White Sox Twitter personalities.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Like, and they, I think White Sox Dave has won it a couple times and he opted out of doing it this year, but he was like on the presenting show.
Yeah.
So for Sox Fest this year, normally the Sox have a convention, but they couldn't. They did one virtually and they had like pretty big names. They had like Lucas Giolito's dad on there and like some of the local sports personalities. And this is just a couple of dudes that started going to White Sox games.
That's crazy. That's what we're aspiring to be.
I would assume and I could be totally off base on this, but if Barstool Chicago ever expands, I feel like they would be a logical
swallow.
Pickup. Yeah.
Makes sense. Going down from them. Are you good, Jems?
Yeah, I'm good. Somebody's gone. I am going to go to the bathroom.
Okay,
but you can run through these.
I'll talk through the next couple. So Bustin' with the Boys against Not Another Racing Podcast at the 6 and 11 seed. Absolutely love Bustin' with the Boys. It's one of my favorite podcasts, even before they went over to Barstool. But I like football stuff, and so it's definitely a interesting podcast for me. Not Another Racing Podcast is hosted by a couple people, but one of them is Matt DiBenedetto. I definitely butchered that, but he's one of my favorite race car drivers. I like his spirit. I like the things that he does as far as like he's been on some small teams and he's now he's worked his way up and he's a good race car driver. So definitely interesting podcast on that one. Then we'll go to the 3 and 14 seed, which is the 14 seed is One Bullet Pod, which is also another video game podcast that Trashman Ronnie highly recommends. So definitely go check that out. But I Am Athlete is definitely in my rotation of things that I listen to all the time. And I didn't even put it on this podcast. Somebody else did, or I didn't even put it on this list. Somebody else did. That's how good of a podcast it is. So definitely go check that out. It's hosted by Brandon Marshall, Chad Ochocinco, Jenny Crowder, and Fred Taylor, and definitely worth a listen. So Jems, you missed me going through 2 matchups, and now we are on the number 7 wrestling the Barstool one.
That's
versus, versus
wrestling is with Brandon F. Walker.
Yep,
and he started at Barstool as just like his story at Barstool you should check out. It's pretty cool how he got there. But like a college football, college basketball, NFL guy. And he finally talked Dave into let him do a wrestling podcast, and it's pretty good. And he's also parlayed that into appearances on NXT and now AEW.
Was he the one who was there with
he was
Robbie?
with Robbie.
Yeah. That's dope. And then they're going up against the number 10 seed, which is the Man to Man Pod.
Which they should have pretty good promotion on Man to Man Pod, I would assume.
The Man to Man Pod, if you don't know what it is, it's a great podcast hosted by Antoine Bethea and Darius Butler. It comes out like 2 to 3 times a week, and it's produced by me. But it's also just it's a really good. You get good interviews, you get good insight. It's made me a better football fan, just knowledge wise, being around those guys. So you should definitely check it out. It's also endorsed by Pat and them. Pat has those guys on all the time and stuff. So they definitely have a good fan base. We have a lot of regular people that come check it out. And the live shows are pretty fun. So
yeah, the Man to Man is awesome. It's produced very well. The graphics are great.
Yeah.
But speaking of Pat, our number 2 seed is the Pat McAfee Show 2.0. And that is kind of what brought us all together for the network for the most part. Yeah,
well, I mean, you can definitely see the binding. It's a lot of Barstool, a lot of Pat. For us, it was Pat. I know that's what brought me to Barstool, really. So
yeah. And then they are going against a almost pretty cool name in Off Track.
Yeah.
with Hinch and Rossi.
Yeah, which is interesting because I learned about both those guys. I remember them being on Heartland Radio.
Yeah.
So when Connor Daly was on there and stuff a few times. And that, so like, so you got a racing IndyCar one against Pat. I think Pat will probably smoke everybody just because he's generally like a well-liked guy.
Right. In reality, the matchup here, obviously, they're 1 and 2 seed, should be PMT versus Pat's show. And it kind of depends on who is paying attention or interested in it.
There's some dark horses in there, I think, depending on the Twitter fan base, could get out there.
Sure.
And then I guess we'll move down to the bottom quadrant, which is the hodgepodge quadrant, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of true crime, a lot of news, a lot of
business
stuff I haven't heard of.
But so number 1 is Crime Junkie, which is currently the number 1 podcast in the world.
People love true crime.
Love it. And it's going against Whose Show Is It Anyway, which is a podcast also produced by me.
That's a top 5 show on the Iron Ostrich Network.
That is great. It may be it's a top 3 for sure. It's an interesting podcast. By the way, if you haven't listened to that podcast, I'm just gonna soft sell it real quick. 2 different hosts every week, different topic, both randomized from our group of people at Iron Ostrich Network, and we've had some great episodes so far. And the one that will be out, which I mentioned earlier, will be Paranormal. That's the newest one that just came out. So
I don't want to say aside from this one, because Who Shows It Anyway is a super cool concept, and it's one of my favorite shows. I mean, I do 2 podcasts, so yeah. I love this one, but like getting picked for that, like it's exciting. Like I don't know who's going next week, but
no one does because I haven't done it.
Okay, so it's exciting to find out. Like,
so it could be you. You could be hosting
it. Being in our group message, this is a little behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Of the topics people pick, and then you're like, I sure hope they don't fucking pick that one.
Yeah,
not talking about jazz music.
And literally in our group message, we are still talking about last week's episode in our group message.
Well, that's because Claire is I don't even know what you just
taco hater.
Her. Yeah, well, yeah, I was trying to think of a good name for a taco hater.
She's not nacho on the taco. I don't know.
Nacho. Yeah, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything for not liking tacos. I guess,
but it's weird. I think we're team taco here, but
yeah.
And then so then move into the 8-9 seed. We have 2 Todd McComas shows. Todd McComas, guest on this podcast before, is an awesome guy. We love Todd.
Yes,
he's great. He's like my uncle. Call him
Uncle Todd.
Call him Uncle Todd all the time. He's a really cool dude. He actually has a lot of he already had a Guns Blazing on here as well. 1041, which is his true crime podcast,
which is one of my go-tos for like the day it drops to listen to. For sure.
It's definitely one of the ones that I am subscribed to. And then Here We Go, which is also one of the ones I am subscribed to because I enjoy it. Basically,
we subscribe to podcasts because we enjoy them.
Yeah. But yeah. By the way, I don't always subscribe to podcasts. I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't try to ask people. I just know like when certain podcasts come out, I'll go find it on that day. I subscribe to maybe like 15 podcasts, and these 2 are 2 of them.
I assumed you had like 500 podcasts you subscribe to.
Nope.
But
I just know what days they drop.
Here We Go is like kind of like 1041 without the true crime. Like he interviews people and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're both really good. I think I like true crime better. Probably. I mean, I like interviews better. I like finding, but 1041 would probably be the one I chose out of those 2.
Definitely.
But fantastic. Either way, Todd is going to the second round.
Todd is making it to the second round. That is true. And then we'll move to Motley Fool Money, which is number 5 seed, which is a big podcast. Apparently, I've never listened to it, but it's a very popular podcast. Against Hard Factor, which is off. It's no longer with Barstool, but started kind of on Barstool, and it is a daily news podcast, which is I think they do some pretty funny stuff on there.
Yeah, and they Hard Factor Will. Is that who was just on the Anomalies a couple episodes ago? Very interesting
one. And then one of the Hard Factor guys is Barstool Kate's baby daddy.
Yep.
So I mentioned her earlier. So So and then moving on, we have the Jordan B. Peterson show podcast, and then Things You Don't Need to Know, which sounds like something that I'm going to be into. I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, that sounds. The name intrigues me. I haven't
Yeah.
listened to either one of those, but Things You Don't Need to Know sounds like something I probably need to know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely going to check that one out. Then we'll move on to the Dave Portnoy show, which I am a listener of. I listened to that one.
It's great. You get behind Barstool stuff. You get Dave's take on
media,
right.
and like the workings of things. You're hearing things.
Yeah, I was hearing something. I was trying to figure out what it was. I'm the only one home right now, so if anything, it's a dog.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. No, but yeah, I enjoyed the Dave Portnoy show. I think it's very interesting and intriguing and all that kind of stuff. He definitely gets some good. I like when he goes off on tangents. So like that's my favorite part.
Yeah, it happens a lot during ad reads. He'll just like nope.
Yeah,
and then he'll start berating somebody for being stupid about it.
It's pretty great. And then it's going against the Clark Howard pod, which I think Tanner put on here. I think it's a business pod as well. I've never listened to it, but apparently somebody told me Clark Howard's sort of like Dave Ramsey, sort of. So
I think that's what
Flegg said.
Yeah, I think it was a Flegg comment.
So I mean, I'll definitely give that one a look as well. And then the number 3 spot, we have The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe. So if you know the Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. I think two people tried to put that on the list. I think.
I know Flegg's put it on.
I think somebody else was trying to put it on too. So interesting. And then Duct Tape Marketing, which I've actually listened to a few times. It's definitely an interesting kind of like dumbed down version of like explained marketing to you. Which is, it's also like, you know, kind of how to do it from like with very little, do a lot with little, basically. It's
for dummies,
kind of, sort of. It's an interesting podcast. I definitely enjoy it. It's not something I listen to regularly, but definitely sometimes I'll be like, I want to do this thing, and I'll like Google it, and like if I see that they have a podcast on it, I'll listen to it. So it's a good place to go learn.
Are we down to the 7th seed now?
Yep, 7 and 10 seed. Yep.
The Rachel Hollis podcast against Token CEO, and that would be Erica Nardini.
Yes,
there's a lot of Barstool in this tournament, but they also have a huge network.
They have they're the number 3 biggest podcast network,
something like that.
Maybe
I see the number of pods they have. There's like 30 or 40. It could even be 50 podcasts on their network, and they are top 5 or something. When some of the other ones that have like 150 podcasts on their network.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Barstool has a diehard fan base, but the cool thing about the Barstool thing, and this will be a side tangent here, but we had a number of them in the comedy section. We had sports in there too, as well. Obviously Barstool Sports in the name, but we also had 2 in this like businessy realm. So they have a number, and we don't even have one of their biggest podcasts in this thing, which is Call Her Daddy. Because none of us put it on our lists, but
right. Also, $1 million worth of game is another huge one they have that we don't have on here.
So they have a number of other ones. But in this one, so I listened to Rachel Hollis' podcast, and I also listened to Token CEO. Token CEO is one of the other ones that I am subscribed to. Token CEO may actually be the only Barstool podcast that I am subscribed to.
Really?
I believe so. Because I really, having daughters and seeing like a female CEO, especially handle things the way that Erica does, is pretty awesome. It's a good example that you see, you know, your kid. I know people have mixed feelings on her, but like, I think if you have a common sense, you can see what she's doing and how she attacks things, and listening to her talk on that podcast, you even get more so in depth. Like, she's a very smart woman.
Yeah.
Like, not that obviously she's a fucking CEO, so that makes sense. But like, it's hard. It sucks that like in 2021 we have to say she's a smart woman. Like,
right? Yeah.
Like, no shit, she is. But she also just has, like, you can tell, like, she's not like your typical CEO. She's not going to be like really dry and boring. Like, she's willing to adapt. She watches the market. She knows what's going on. Like, I get even some of the stuff that I've used to like shift where I put my priorities at in the media space have come from listening to her podcast. So
nice.
Yeah, but so I'm pulling for a Token CEO to win. But
me too. So
I think she's underrated at 10 seed, but
yeah, the last podcast matchup for the tournament is the 2 seed Planet Money.
Yep.
And against the 15 seed Personality Hacker, and I will cede to Tone here because I have not heard either one of them.
Planet Money is good. It's not really my cup of tea, but it's definitely like there's they talk about like stocks and stuff like that. And from the one I listened, one of the few I listened to, like it's it's obviously money like based around that kind of thing, which I typically stay away from in podcast listening world, but just because I'm like trying to stay awake and some of that stuff. But Planet Money is a really big podcast. I think it's like the number 36 biggest podcast in the world. So obviously there's a lot of people enjoying it. And Personality Hacker, I have not heard of till recently. But basically like, it just gives you like things that you can kind of like do to like optimize yourself as a human. So good listen,
So if you were going to pick, do you want to pick a Final Four or do you want to pick just a champion?
I want to pick a Final Four and then pick a champion.
Okay.
So I think out of, we'll start in the JRE one. I think out of that one, I think Bill Burt is going to be the Final Four.
And so not going based off of what I think is the best one on here.
Same. I was just going off of who I think is going to like get some push. Maybe.
So the interesting thing is the Bill Burt podcast, if that doesn't get a push by one of those two guys, Twisted History could easily upset them, especially with Large being buddies with the Anomalies guys.
Yeah.
I kind of think KFC Radio actually might be the one that comes out of here.
Okay. So I'll write you down for KFC Radio.
Yeah.
All right. Who do you got in the bottom half?
I think I'm going to go with Hey Babe, even though I'm not super confident with that. I like I love Two Bears, One Cave too. I'm just trying to think of who's going to interact with us. And because the more people that see it is going to be the better. I think,
for sure.
Although Bert does, you know what? I'm going to say Two Bears, One Cave. I think I'm hoping for like a Bert retweet or something out of that. And
okay. So Two Bears, One Cave is exactly what I'm thinking too.
Talk my way through that one.
Okay, and that's also why I think Bill Burt's gonna go, because I think if he does one, he'll do the other.
Yeah.
So, in the top bracket, sports bracket, who we got?
Off the rails.
Off the rails. We're definitely gonna push it out for sure.
It'll probably be Pat.
I'm gonna say Pat too.
He follows some of the guys in our network. The guys follow some of the guys in our network, so the pod might actually do pretty well too.
Yeah, I think the pod will do well, but yeah, and Guns Ablazing might.
Yes.
And then in the bottom half, I'm gonna say I'll go first, but I think it's a possibility that our representative is Hard Factor or Token CEO. I'm gonna say Token CEO though.
I think it could be the Dave Portnoy show.
Okay. So you have Dave Portnoy. All right. So we agree on one of them, and we're different on the other one. So let's see who you have.
The reason I think the Dave Portnoy show is this because he like catches wind of it for some reason. He's super competitive. He might be like, this is a stupid fucking tournament, but I don't want to lose to
somebody. Yeah. All right. So who do you? I have Pat McAfee going to the finals.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So you do too.
A Pat Dave matchup would be fun.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'm gonna have Two Bears going from the other side.
I think I agree with you there, and I think Pat probably wins.
I think Pat wins as well.
If I were to. And I love that
we're doing it on Twitter, and like I know that's kind of how we met. So like a lot of our followers are people that listen to that podcast as well,
right?
And a lot of these other ones. But I think that's our guess is that Pat McAfee is going to win.
I would think so.
I'm interested though. I'm definitely interested to see like
where wild could happen where it catches the right person's eye, and
yeah,
or somebody we think that might interact with it doesn't, and then they get smoked.
For sure. I mean, it's highly possible. That's the cool thing about Twitter, right? Is like it could be anyone could interact with it. Someone could, I mean, Zero Blog 30 could hit a retweet, and who knows? Maybe they take a shot all the way to the final. You know, all these podcasts are good and recommended by people in our network, in our tight network. So they're all good podcasts,
right? And if anybody on this list of 64 teams or podcasts rather, would like to come on the show to promote their podcast to gain votes, we are more than welcome, or you are more than welcome to come on the show, and we will pump that episode or at least a clip out that very night.
Damn right. So that's I think that's the way we end it. Brackets, it's March Podness. We're gonna freaking have some fun with it. Go over to the Iron Ostrich HQ at Iron Ostrich HQ on Twitter. We'll basically probably have polls up almost every day through the tournament.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll take some days off because we might get a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
because it'll go quicker after.
But it's gonna be fun. So so go show your support, and then follow the podcast network. Follow us Off the Rails. Follow Who Shows It Anyway. Follow the Anomalies. Follow Spoken Pop Moms. Follow Bacon Focus. Follow all of us. We were always putting out great content. We thank you for listening to this point, and I guess that's it for me today. You got anything else, Jems?
No, just keep your eyes peeled. We're gonna keep up pumping more and more into the network, and we're eventually, hopefully soon, have merch.
Yeah.
So
we're definitely gonna make some moves. 2021 is gonna be a big growing year for us as the Iron Ostrich Network and as Off the Rails. So
yep, and we should have some cool interviews coming up here for us as well. And working on some more for the future.
Yeah, and if there's anybody you want us to interview, just shoot one of us a DM or
also shoot them a DM and suggest that they come and talk to us.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're always looking for people, and we just like to talk to interesting people. So
yeah, honestly, it doesn't matter. Not like we're like, oh, we'll talk to anybody, but like seriously, if anybody has a cool story, we'd love to talk to them. We like doing the research on people if we don't know a ton about them too. Yeah, that me and Jems are as off the rails as we are. We do come into these mostly prepared. Mostly, yeah. And then it goes off the rails. Well, that's it. That's it for me. Thank you guys for tuning into episode number 21. Go check out the March Podness tournament, and then let's go have a blast. Let's grow this thing. Tell your friends if you like it. Help us out. Go leave a review. Go subscribe to the YouTube. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. Do everything. Everything. All right, we're out.